Education Department, 5 schools closed in 2014-2015, and 4 new schools opened. In 2015-16, 2 schools will shut its doors and 3 new schools will open. So if you were to transport the Northrop Frye overflow to one of those schools, your transportation is already in place, and your one-time cost avoidance would be over $30 million because there would be no need for a new school. If you were to move your Evergreen Park overflow to one of those vacant schools, again, all shorter distances than what you're asking our children to travel, you would have a projected total annual cost savings of $714,766, which you are currently paying in rental fees, which I am assuming are for the portables required to school those children in because it is over capacity. I would also like to mention that Evergreen and Northrop Frye on an annual basis cost this district $5.1 million that's going to be paid over the next 30 years as part of the projected agreement for the payments. And as part of the projected agreement, the payments on those schools are subject to an annual increase on Consumer Price Index. And that was not calculated into your cost for operating those schools. If you were to move your district offices into one of your empty schools or half-full schools, you would be saving yourself an annual cost avoidance of $336,960. Within those monitoring reports that I had mentioned, and within reading your deck minutes, you guys are always talking about boundary changes. I have yet to see you actually implement any. But if you were to implement boundary changes, that would alleviate school overflow, utilize low capacity number of schools, and forgo the need for new schools construction. Changing DCS's school boundaries would alleviate overflow at Lou McNairon, increase our student population, and decrease our cost per student. The total cost for Dorchester Consolidated School to operate is $759,506. The average cost per student in Anglophone East School District is $7,249. If you were to increase our boundaries, we could bring our average cost down to $7,361. That is only $112 above the average cost to educate a child in Anglophone East. That equals $13,328 a year over the average cost. Are you going to close us for a difference of $13,328? You probably would close us for the mere $13,328 because you were told to make cuts. You were not given an amount money-wise to cut, just to make cuts. But wait, what if we could put a business in here that generates that money? The hub schools in Nova Scotia are in some instances generating $50,000 to $90,000 a year. What if DCS could do the same? From a press release dated April 7, 2015, Dr. Paul Bennett says New Brunswick should adopt a process similar to Nova Scotia's, which he says gives communities a chance to look at the factors such as community impact, possible alternate uses for parts of the building. Roussel points out Policy 409 already considers those factors. He says this policy was put into place to take into consideration the different options and the different points of view. That's a quote from the minister. So why not give us more than the 7 weeks to give you a proper business plan? How about if you give us the 12 months Mr. Roussel says is a fair amount of time for this process? In a statement made by the Premier Gallant from January 2015, he states, "Your government is focused on creating jobs. It continues to be our #1 priority. So let's create some jobs. We are willing to open a before and after school program here which will create jobs. Please give us the time to do this." So just reviewing all of the numbers that I have thrown out to you guys, your potential savings from a multi-school community, you would be looking at a yearly savings of $2,164,526 and a one-time cost avoidance of over $90 million. Those numbers down, because those are real numbers that you guys have provided to me, and I would like you to really look at what you can do within a multi-school community. Looking at your potentials from sole school communities, Dorchester Consolidated School and Riverside Consolidated School is just a projected annual cost savings of $926,888. You have a one-time cost avoidance on both of our schools of being $3,272,000, but as I will explain later, and Sarah will as well, your actual one-time cost avoidance is down to $1,596,000. So if we were to look at what is the better choice, your Anglophone East projected annual cost savings for closing our 2 sole community schools, $926,888, 0.69%. For a multi-school projected annual cost savings of $2,164,526. That's 1.262% saved out of your budget. Which would you choose? What is the better choice on your one-time saving cost avoidance? What is really, and again I will show that later, $1,596,000 or over $90 million? I'm going with $90 million for myself. That's the one I would like to save. So your investment that you're receiving of $95.9 million to build and improve schools, that $23 million is going for a series of capital improvement projects, while $72.9 million is to be spent on new construction and midlife upgrades, and 3 education facility requirement studies, which are both at $50,000 each. To upgrade DCS would only take $196,000, and that's really on a wish list that you guys have. And out of all of that $95.9 million, it's only 0.2% to upgrade our school.
Deck members, I'd like to thank you and welcome you here. Appreciate the opportunity to actually get to give you some options. You may recognize me from such emails as what's a cup of time, why are we starting at 6:30, where the heck's my information? Okay, anyway. So I don't have any children at the school. I'm just, this is our school, this is our community. So I decided to concentrate on some of the financials. And so I looked first at the building health and safety. I brought a contractor in to take a look at the list that the district had provided to see what things were actually required that are necessary and what were the things that we'd like to have but don't necessarily need to have. It's a rural school and we're used to kicking it old school. So we went through the list and some of it was kind of vague, so it was a little bit hard, difficult, so we had to kind of make some assumptions. So first thing were the doors. So we went through the school, we looked at all the interior doors. They're all wooden, but they're all in great working condition. So that's a want, it's not a need. We don't need new doors. The floors, we went through the whole school, looked at all the floors, all the tiles are in good condition. Floors are nice and level. There's one little spot in the back of the gym, and while the contractor was here, he said, you know what, I'll come in and I'll fix that for free for you guys, no problem. Tiles that replacement tiles, and the floor is in good condition. Interior accessibility is an issue. So we took a look, and I'm assuming from the $250,000 there that maybe they were thinking an elevator within the school. So we kind of looked at that option, and if it came to having somebody here that needed access, or if we were able to bring the library into the school, kind of repurpose some of it, we don't really need to have access to the top floor, so we can keep everything on the bottom level. We had two options. One, there's a back door on the side of the building there that we could kind of modify and put a ramp in. Ample room, we measured, we looked, it was good. That would be about $12,000, and that's with a new wheelchair access automatic door entryway. The other option is actually the front door. As you noticed when you came in, there's a railing there. So there's an option to put a lift right off of the stairs, drops down, and then they have full access to the bottom floor. That was at a cost of about $8,000. Realistically, sure, it'd be great to have an elevator, but I'll tell you what, we don't need it. We don't need it here. We went on to the exterior doors. We looked at all the exterior doors. They're all in good working condition. All the weather stripping is good. So again, it's a want. It's not something that we need to have here in Dorchester. The interior accessibility, the ramp, that was part of the quotes you can just see above, and that kind of scratches that $50,000 off. The heating and ventilation system. We went through. It's actually a brand new furnace in the school. We switched over from oil to natural gas, so it's a brand new furnace in the school. We went through every classroom and looked at all the hot water heaters because it's all a hot water heater system, and it's in great shape. He said there was nothing really to do with it, so I'm not sure where the $160,000 comes from. Maybe it's just that something that got missed. What we have is good and is brand new. Fire codes, fire prevention, fire integrity. It was a little bit vague, so we made a couple of assumptions. One of the assumptions was the balcony upstairs. Talked to the contractor, and if anything needs to be done to that, we need to maybe bring it up a little bit to a code height that is current now, probably wasn't current then, and a sprinkler system. So we're grandfathered in right now without a sprinkler system, and the building's mostly concrete, so it was $25,000 to do the rail up there. We can forego the sprinkler system for now. It's not something that we need. The building exterior, foundation wall, that's already been completed, and that was on district's list of things that was completed. So there's no cost for that. It's done. Communication systems, they are antiquated. I thought it was like the old amps from the 50s when I saw them up on the wall there, pretty old school. So we asked him about that. He said it would cost realistically around $15,000 to replace all the speakers, run all new wires. He said nowadays, you never know, we might be able to get a wireless system to save even more cost. So that went from 25 to 15. Interior renovations and alterations, it said offices. We went out and looked at the offices. Oh, sorry, not clicking along there. Sorry. Offices, are we there? Yep. Third item on the list. We went out and looked at the offices. Barricade, Kathleen, they're combined. Site improvement, the parking lot. I will give the district that we could use an upgrade on our parking lot out there. Heating, ventilation, ventilation system, $300,000. It really would be nice, obviously, to have a ventilation system in here. We do have a fan for the gym, and all windows are in perfect operational. They can open and close them. So again, that's not something that we need. That's not an amount of money that you need to spend in Dorchester. Interior windows, they're all great. All the thermal panes are good. They're from 1989. We checked the dates. We checked all the seals. They're all operating. So the only thing the contractor said is maybe we want to repop the outside windows. So that would be around $15,000. Fire alarms, that would be for an upgrade. Ours worked fine. I wanted no one to make sure that they wouldn't let me. So they're working fine. We don't need new upgrade for that. Foundation wall and slab, I'm not sure. That was listed twice. Once is $50,000, which was listed as also done, and another for $20,000. So I'm going to assume that's the same part and parcel, but maybe it's not. The heating and ventilation and maintenance. We got him to look the system over, and he doesn't know where that $50,000 came from because everything is new, and all the rads in each room are in great shape. So he said that's about $1,000 a year. So I'm not sure where that $50,000 came from. Interior lighting, $75,000. While he was here, we counted every single fluorescent light bulb in this building. We called an electrician while we were here to find out how much it would cost to retrofit all those light bulbs to make them all energy efficient. I think it's C5. So he called the electrician while I was on the phone. It's about $50 a unit. We priced it at $60 a unit. So from $75,000 to $8,000. We don't have to replace the fixtures, just the ballasts inside. So if you do washrooms, wheelchair accessible on the main floor, $210,000 is what's listed. So we went through the washrooms, and I assume that's for upgrading the washrooms too. We went through all the washrooms, all the toilets are working, all the sinks are working, everything's in good condition. It's old, but it's in good condition, it's working. I gotta tell you, I went to an advisory council meeting last Thursday at NBCC in Miramichi, and I think they have older toilets than we have here. So at the college, you gotta pay to go there, it's all right. So wheelchair accessible bathroom, though, that is something that we should look at, especially if we're gonna bring in like the library, we gotta have it accessible. So there is 2 boys' bathrooms on the bottom floor. We looked at the one down the hall. It's a very large boys' bathroom. So we thought, hey, why can't we cut the opening a little bit larger, change the stall inside, and that can be a unisex wheelchair washroom, and there would still be a boys and girls on the ground floor. So we thought that was a pretty great solution, and that would only cost $12,000, and that's for the whole retrofit. If you're building exterior again, the roofs, they were already done. They were done in 2013, I believe, and they were on the district's PowerPoint that you saw when you were here last time as completed. They're also on the list to be done. So we assumed that that was a little bit of a mix-up, and they've already been done. The exterior of the windows, again, the windows were all in great shape. Just to be recaulked if we thought it was necessary, but he said the caulking is in pretty good shape. The ceilings, interior finishes. This whole school could use a coat of paint, you know. I'm sure most of our houses could use another coat of paint. But this is something actually that our village has an advantage over every other single community in the province, and we have a huge resource here that we could be drawing off of, and that is the penitentiary. Because those people, those inmates will come down here on a work program, provide the materials for them, and they will do the work. We could get a crew in here all summer, and we could get all the walls painted, and we could get all the ceilings painted. all the windows caulked outside, if we can get them all caulked inside. In the summer, there's no students around, but that's a huge resource that this village alone has to draw on. And I really think that working with you guys is something that we could really pull together and get somebody in here to take care of a lot of these things that, I mean, there's always lots of things that you wish you could have, but what you really need to have. We cut this down to, $200,000 from $1.8 million. It'd be great to have a ventilation system, but we don't need it. And if it means keeping Dorchester open, we'll be taking those old school doors and opening up windows as long as it takes, because education is not about the new doors and that sort of thing. It's about keeping it open. Not spending money. I kind of should ask for longer. I should ask. Seriously, this is good information. This is not fluffing. I've really worked hard, and I've taken what information the district has given me to really look at this realistically, because I'm a scientist. So if it can't be done, then it can't be done. It's just as simple as that. Dorchester catchment is something that this community has tried to expand into for quite a few years now, probably since we lost it to Moncton. And up till now, there's been resistance to change the boundaries at all. It's kind of like a set in stone thing. But now is the opportunity. Hear about, boundaries are going to change, schools are going to close, people are going to move. Now is the opportunity to change the boundaries for Dorchester, to do a couple of things. To increase the population here in Dorchester and make it more sustainable, to give children from Memramcook a much shorter bus ride to school, to give those kids that live in rural areas an opportunity to come to a rural school, and it might eventually help really alleviate some overflow issues from the city. If we do start consolidating schools in the inner city, we should be working from the center out. Not as good an idea to move from the center in. So this is what I pulled off the government website. So this is just an outline of all the sub-districts of Anglophone East. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. I put this slide in because this is Moncton sub-district, I think it's 4 and 5. But those highlighted schools are some of the schools that Michelle was talking about. They're in very close proximity. They're almost in the same neighborhoods. So to consolidate a couple of those schools, shift people around in Moncton, it'll have an impact, I'm sure, but I don't think it'll have the same impact that it's going to have in Dorchester if we close our doors here. Sub-District 3 is Blue McNairan, so that is the district that butts up against our district. On the GMB website, you can see it's actually quite small. It stops at just after the intersection of Dover Road and Laval, or the 106. And then we have our sub-district 2, which includes the Tantramar region. So we are of now the same political boundaries. We're all rural areas, close communities, and Memramcook is actually much closer to Dorchester than it is to the city. Memramcook has a growing population. It had 54 building permits last year alone. And when we were talking to our MLA, he had said that the shift of Francophone and Anglophone in Memramcook is changing. The demographics are changing, so now there's more English there than there was before. I think he said around a 70-30 split. And Dorchester's demographics are changing. As you can see in the Stats Canada page that Wade had up earlier, that we're actually forecasted to increase our population, not decrease, as the slide you had seen at the previous presentation from the district. So I sent in a list. I went through Memramcook because, you know what, I gotta be honest, there's that point there that it does make sense for them to go to Moncton. We can't just run in and say we'd like to have all Memramcook, even though it'd be nice, because I don't want kids on the bus for any longer than have to be like anybody else. So we kind of requested the street areas from that blue section you see kind of overlaying on the map, and you can see Dorchester is just down below on the other side of the river. So currently, there are 4 buses that service Dorchester and that section of Memramcook Cook. There's actually another bus, but it's on the other side, and we're not going to talk about that bus. So there's bus 201, that's our bus in Dorchester. There's bus 202, which is a Dorchester-Sackville bus. There's bus 210, which is a Dorchester-Sackville bus. And there's bus 153, which is a Memramcook bus that goes to Moncton High School, Bloomington, and Louisville Middle. So our proposed would actually only require bus 201, bus 210, and bus 153. We no longer need bus 202, and no additional buses or transportation are needed to adjust this boundary. We're just going to kind of shift things around and make it work. So I kind of first wanted to show you the routes that they take now. So if you look at the red line, that is bus 153. That's the route that it takes. If you see the, I guess you can't see it, but there's a purple line there. That is our current bus 201. There's another orange line that is bus 202, and then there's kind of a green line that is bus 210. And bus 210, 202, and 201 travel the same road 3 times in the morning. So it's kind of a duplication of transportation there. So I asked District for all the bus runs. They were good enough to provide them to me. The ones I really wanted, I only got Friday, so it was a tight weekend for me trying to put the last bit of it together. But I actually went out with a GPS and somebody else driving. I was not driving distracted. And we timed those runs. We actually ran them to see what the roads were like, how long it would take, how many pickups there were, and we were very successful actually. So Memramcook to Tantramar, because realistically we could solve another couple of problems here. If we were bringing these kids to Dorchester, we could also send those kids to Tantramar for high school, because right now where they Moncton High, that is quite far out there now on the Irish Town Road. So only 18 kilometers to Tantramar, 9 to Dorchester, and then there's actually 36 to Moncton High. So just run through them quickly. We provided all this information for you guys so you can look it over again. And honestly, if you have any questions about what I did, I'd love to explain to you what I did. So we would propose bus 210, which currently now starts at Anderson Mill, comes down to 106 into Dorchester, and swings back up Woodhurst to go to Sackville. We would actually propose that he just stays on the highway, one more exit, and gets off at the Renaissance Road. He would come down the Renaissance Road, head up Point Rouge, head across Memramcook East, come back down Lackville Road, and to the intersection of Thomas Street, and that would be his last pickup in that area. His total trip time from when he did his first pickup to when he dropped kids off at PCS would be 40 minutes. His total trip time from when he started in Memramcook and made his way all the way to Sackville with high school kids would be an hour and 10 minutes. Currently, right now, bus 153, from the time he starts to the time he drops kids off at Moncton High is an hour and 55 minutes. It's going on the bus. So we could be saving students on the bus 25 minutes less, and I'm sure with that time difference that we'd actually probably be saving some fuel mileage too. So bus 153, that's the Memramcook bus that was covering all of Memramcook and transporting the kids up Laval into the city. He would actually just cover the north side of the Memramcook Valley. He would start on the old Chediac Road, and he would go right down the old Chediac Road. He would come down Central. He would head all the way down to Taylor Village. He would come across St. Thomas, and he would actually meet bus 210 and transfer those kids off his bus. He would be done around 7:30, 7:40, and that bus actually could go back across Craydon Hall and do an AM 2 run, and he could help transport some kids into Moncton. So you could repurpose that bus. He wouldn't even have to come into Dorchester at all. We could use him for another run somewhere else. Once bus 210 picked up those kids, he would have no more pickups. He would drive straight into DCS for a transfer. So again, the time on the bus for the kids would be 40 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes to Sackville, and they were on the bus an hour and 55 minutes. And then we have bus 201. So currently bus 201 starts in Dorchester Cape and heads all the way out to Anderson Mill, turns around, comes back around Cherry Burton and up Woodlawn. So we would actually start bus 201 up at Anderson Mill, and bus 201 would kind of pick up where bus 210 left off, and it would actually pick up, all these buses would be picking up the high school, the middle school, and the elementary children. She would come down through and do the 106, come down to Dorchester Cape. There's a couple of kids just past the train tracks there on the wrong side of the tracks. Go around, you know it's true. Go around Water Street up into Cherry Burton, and you would actually meet bus 210, which is coming straight down from Member Cook, do a transfer here at the school, and then both those buses would kind of pigtail each other up Woodlawn, and 210 would continue on to Sackville with the high school kids, and I've given him a better idea, so hopefully it's just high school kids he's got on at that point, but maybe he's got some French version kids on as well. So there's more positives there than I listed, but there's less travel time on the bus for the students who currently travel to Moncton, Lou, and Louisville Middle. There would be one less transportation unit needed. It would relieve some pressure on other schools, especially if we ended up consolidating some of them. It would add to this Dorchester population. And it may be what could secure a French immersion program at this school, which is something that we've always really wanted. Let's do this. The only negative is transfers. There's a couple of transfers in there, but they're all at safe locations. So I think that's something that happens. We have a transfer that happens now, so I think that's something that could happen, and we'll be okay with it. So that is what we could do to change the boundary. It's totally feasible, and I'm sure I have no idea when it comes to transfer. I've learned a lot, but I'm sure you guys can do district even better than I've done with changing those boundaries. We wouldn't be taking all of Member Cook, but we would be taking what makes sense. So that will lead us into, yeah. Am I? Did you guys get tired? Are you guys okay? This is good information. Yeah, okay. Okay. So, Dorchester's enrollment. There was a survey in 2005 that people from Member Cook would want to bring their children here to Dorchester, and it was like 85% no. But I don't think that that's an old survey. So I will run through this quick. There's 59 students in Dorchester now. The Member Cook expansion, if we could take that in, it would add another 30 children. So we have a total of 89 children in the school. There's also another, about 13 in Sackville. I guess it's 11, sorry, it's supposed to be 11. So there'd be 100 children in Dorchester. So this is just a breakup of what the class sizes would look like with the different projected sizes with the Member Cook expansion and with the Dorchester and Sackville kids. So there's currently kids going to Sackville right now because if they don't start in kindergarten, they won't be guaranteed placement in grade 3 for French immersion. So, proposed split, I've split it up for you. We don't need to change any of the FTE credits. We have ample teachers right now with the class sizes that we would be bringing in, that we wouldn't have to add any teachers. And it would actually bring Dorchester up to 20-to-1 student ratio if we got those 100, had a total of 100 kids. This is what I want you to pay attention. This is the main slide. So right now we have 65 students. Extra resources or to take away any resources. We actually have a First Nations student in this school right now, and they pay the district, the First Nations pay the district approximately $8,000 a year for so they cover their own education. So taking that off because that is a positive for the students going here to Dorchester. Still, our cost is $11,500 a student. If we were to bring the Member Cook catchment in, there'd be 0 additional resources needed, but we would actually save 0.3 unit transportation. That would be bus 202 in the morning. I've counted that as a positive towards Dorchester. So that would bring us down to $8,200 per student. Step it up one more, and let's bring the Sackville, or the Dorchester kids that are going to Sackville right now back. We need 0 additional resources. We've cut out 0.3 of the unit transportation, and that would bring us to about $7,000 per year to educate a student. Let's step it up. Let's bring French immersion to this school, right? Three FTE credits based on the information that I had available to me, and I've seen some different figures, so I figure that's a fair figure. There's actually 19 students between Merrimack and Sackville that would come to this school for French immersion. We would cut out a whole bus in the afternoon and the morning. So minus the 5 First Nation students we would have here now, because there are 4 other First Nation students in Fort Poly that have to go to Sackville because they don't get the French immersion instruction that they're looking for. That would bring our cost down to about $7,300 a student. If you could get away with 2 FTEs, it would bring it down even more. And I know district may not work in that kind of math, but if we're cutting out a bus and we're getting that money from the First Nations to this school, the district is paid for that. I see that as a bonus task. But the numbers are there, so you can do the math without it if you prefer to see what that will work out to. So your average cost, the lowest average cost that I could find for district was $7,000. So we would be right